This episode of Man of Prestige, especially as a man, gentlemen, when you bring this energy into your relationship with a woman, right, she will not feel safe and secure with you. So the masculine is going to come out, right? And then you have chaos because both people are operating in their masculine energy or both people are operating in their feminine energy. It's chaotic, right? It's not a good look. All right. And then, you get to blame yourself if you have to blame. I prefer that we don't use blame at all. We look at things the way they are and reassess things. Back off. Stop trying to keep scores on everything, including 50-50. Number one, it discounts the principle of seasons. Sometimes you're just giving, and you have to wait. You have to be patient long enough in order to receive, in order to allow the thing to germinate. It gets watered, it gets protected, and then 50-50 relationships. 5 reasons why they fail. Let's talk about that. All right, so I'm going to read this quote and then we'll dive right into this. It's no secret that relationships are tough. It takes two to tango. And sometimes the dance becomes awkward. You know what? Because people are trying to do 50-50. Even in a tango, somebody has to lead that dance, right? At least in the beginning to set the tone, right? All right, good. So we all know couples who have been together for years but still can't seem to get along or share household responsibilities equally. We see that all the time. You know why? Because it's natural, okay? Somebody in any given moment, within certain context, in any given context, even in the grand scheme of a marriage or relationship, somebody has to be leading, okay? Okay, so yes, including money. We're talking about money as well, right? But when you approach it in 50-50, let's keep going right here, right? Or even talk about what they want out of life without bickering, okay? So precisely when people play the 50-50 game, they increase the chances of bickering, okay? What's the problem? Why do so many 50-50 relationships fail? Yes. When you say 50-50, let me just say this right now, okay? That also means 100-100. That also means 200-200. It's the same thing. Have you ever done math before? Yes, it cancels each other. If it cancels each other out, I don't care if it's 1-1, 50-50, 100-100, 1,000-1,000, because I see people try to get slick and use all these different things. It's the same thing, okay? Because they cancel each other. If they cancel each other out, you've got a problem, because we're talking about you, and your leverage point in that relationship is still always going to be you. Only you will attract the happiness that you get out of that relationship, and you can try to put that responsibility on other people. You want to hold them accountable. It's not going to work like that, because we're human beings. That means a big variable in all of this is the emotions, especially yours, especially if you disagree with what I just said. Okay, so let's go to number 5. 5 reasons why 50-50 relationships fail 100% of the time. Yes, dare I say it, 100% of the time. When I say 100% of the time, I don't care what people say. I'm looking at their actions. Some people will say, oh no, we're 50-50. When you really look at them closely, it's not 50-50. Somebody has to basically lead within the context of whatever we're talking about. It could be who put the shoes away for the most part. It could be who make sure they cover the toothpaste properly. It could be we'll make sure they cover the toilet properly, right? It could be we'll spend the most money, right? It could be who initiate sex the most, right? So usually people run their mouth, but they do something else in real life. So I'm talking about in action 100% of the time. If you approach your relationship with that 50-50 mindset, it's very hard to ever feel the need to compromise, because you'll be busy holding people accountable. Okay, and that's going to waste a lot of the energy, and the time is going to be wasting away, and life and love is wasting away actively because of your outlook on life. You're human. You have a spirit and soul in you. The idea of measuring things with a yardstick, a ruler, absolute all the time will fail 100% of the time. Why? Because you will spend all your energy trying to keep scores. Number 5, unrealistic expectations. Okay, humans are powerful, but they're not capable of trying to measure everything accurately. That's why we have data analytics. That's why we have data manipulation and data keeping track and all. That's why we have people getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars just to keep eyes on the data, because humans are humans, and for every repetitive work or involvement we involve in our daily activity, there will be slippages. We call them slippages, right? And if you don't account for that in how you move in life, you will suffer. And the worst part is that the way you suffer is going to be coming from a blind spot, because remember, this is your outlook on life. This is how you see things. Even when people are trying to correct you, you're not going to be able to hear it. That's why it's a perpetual vicious cycle. And the only reason why I'm sharing this with you is just be aware. Number 4, the myth of give and take. Our relationship is a give and take. I disagree. Okay, this is my opinion now, and here's why I disagree. I do think you should not be pouring from an empty cup. I do think you should give to yourself first, but I think you go into a relationship to give. That's it. No more, no less. We're talking about romantic relationships, right? But honestly, even in business relationships, you have to focus on what value you bring to the table, as opposed to focusing on holding other people accountable. You have to start with what value you bring to the table. When you start to keep track of things and stuff over time, or you start to feel like you're pouring too much, yes, of course you have to assess things, right? Make sure you're not just pouring and you're not receiving. But the key word is receiving, right? It's called receivables, not takeables. When you have to take that, the energy that comes with that, you might as well just give more, or give to the right places. Maybe you're giving into the wrong places. It could be, right? But this is just, again, don't get stuck on semantics. I'm trying to make a point. Focus on the value you bring into any situation first. Over time, people tend to reciprocate because of what they call micro commitments. They feel guilty for not doing that. And if they don't feel guilty, they're a bad person, or there are bad people in this world, sure. But let's hold you responsible and accountable for how are you able to stay there when you're not receiving, right? Why don't you have abundance mindset and shift your focus to other people, give to them until you start to receive? It's just a better leverage point than trying to take. Number 3, inaccurate measures and metrics. Kind of similar to what I already said, right? When we're looking at human beings, for the most part, all of us, not just you, for me too, maybe the way I'm looking at things, there is the extreme other end of it. I have to make sure that I'm receiving, because I'm a giver. You could tell, right? So now I know that my weakness is I may be pouring way too much. So I have to make sure that I'm receiving so I can afford to keep giving. It's the same thing in romantic and business relationships. But the problem with a lot of people who argue this point is they have inaccurate measures and metrics. They're measuring human beings in absolute numbers, and they are basically discounting emotions and feelings, when literally everything we say comes out of our feelings, right? Including you, how much more another human being's feelings that you have to consider. And every time you discount that, you suffer more because you're missing out a big chunk of the variables. Number 2, a competition atmosphere. 50-50 relationships fail all the time because it creates this competition. You're actively trying to compete with each other. I'm talking about romantic relationships now, right? You're actively trying to do it. And when you bring that, especially as a man, gentlemen, when you bring this energy into your relationship with a woman, right, she will not feel safe and secure with you. So the masculine is going to come out, right? And then you have chaos because both people are operating in their masculine energy, or both people are operating in their feminine energy. It's chaotic, right? It's not a good look. All right. And then, you get to blame yourself if you have to blame. I prefer that we don't use blame at all. We look at things the way they are and reassess things. Back off. Stop trying to keep scores on everything, including 50-50. Number 1, it discounts the principle of seasons. Sometimes you're just giving, and you have to wait. You have to be patient long enough in order to receive, in order to allow the thing to germinate. It gets watered, it gets protected, and then it reciprocates in folds. Its principle of life is called the principle of seasons. And sometimes, you have to wait for the harvest season, right? But if you don't wait for the harvest season, how are you gonna, So I actually had a quote that I wrote earlier on Clubhouse, and here's something with women that you need to understand, right? A woman, as far as I'm concerned, has nothing to offer me outside of reciprocating the tone that I set. I set the tone. She's like a fertile ground because I'm setting the tone, aka I'm sowing seeds. She will multiply it, I'll protect it and nurture, she will multiply it and return to me in folds. So guess what I do? As far as if we have to use numbers at all, I focus on 200 because I know that she reciprocates as 400. Okay? That's what I focus on. I focus on 200, but I know with experience, facts over feelings at this moment in time, she reciprocates 400. But when I focus on, let's make sure 50-50, right? Guess what happens? All kind of weed will start growing because I'm not sowing seeds first. I lost the sense of season. There's no patience, right? And basically it's chaotic, right? And I become like an average person out there who is struggling with women. And I try to blame it on women and try to hold women accountable. And, that lens basically it just makes me miserable. But obviously I'm not, right? So you get the point, right? Women, the feminine energy will receive and reciprocate. It has nothing to offer you first. You have to set the tone. You're the masculine frame, you bring that to the table. You sow the seeds, you bring the seeds, literally, and all types of ways, right? And you nurture it, you create structure around it, and then it reciprocates. If it's the wrong ground, you note it, right? You've tried to water it, and it's the wrong ground, then you have to keep it moving. You have that choice as well, right?